Listen, I love Christmas. I'm not bar humbug at all. I love everything about it. I love the carols, I love the food, I love the presents, I love the fact that it's a time of year for your children, but everybody who has spent a lot of time at home at Christmas just needs a bit of fresh air on Boxing Day, and there is no better way than to go to Kempton, get that blast of icy air and get some top quality racing watched as well. And the King George has very special memories for me because essentially it's the first race meeting I went to, apart from Boys Point, the first proper race meeting I went to. I went in 1984, I think it was, when Borough Hill Lad beat Coombs Ditch and the already 2 times winner Wayward Lad, who went on to win the following year, and I went to every King George from 84 right the way up until sort of the mid-2000s. So it's a race that's got a very special place in my heart, and I've seen some fantastic winners of it. My favourite King George, it's a tie. The 4th win that Desert Orchid posted, so he had 2 for Simon Sherwood, 2 for Richard Dunwoody, and he was probably past his best when he won his 4th King George. Well, he was past his best when he won his 4th King George, but he was still brilliant that day, and I never forget being on the top of the clubhouse there at Kempton. I suppose I was about 11 or 12, and running to the paddock to see him before he jumped the last fence, because I knew that the reception would be so insane. And I don't think I've ever seen a reception like it before or since at any racecourse. It was really, really special. In terms of one of the great races, I loved Barton Bank against Bradbury Star in '93, because I had a real soft spot for both horses, particularly Bradbury Star, who I was sort of cheering on, and he was the horse that came there on the bridle and didn't find quite as much as Barton Bank, who really toughed it out under Adrian Maguire. And then he, the following year, went on and was miles clear at the last and unseated the rider, and that was another bit of the King George folklore. But I suppose it would be a tie between 1990 Desert Orchid's 4th and '93 Barton Bank against Bradbury Star. Well, if you take out Desert Orchid, who I think would be a lot of people's favourite King George winner, and you take out Corto Star, who dominated the race so wholly more latterly, on a personal note, one of my favourite King George winners was Seymour Business. I love the horse. He's the sort of horse who shouldn't really have won a King George, because you associate him more with being an out-and-out stayer, a grinder, a horse for whom the Gold Cup was his perfect race, and yeah, he won a lot of those big staying chases, and he was relentless and he was very tough. But in point of fact, he won 2 King Georges. And the first King George he won was sort of before anyone really had heralded him. And he was ridden by Andrew Thornton for Paul Nicholls. He was a big price. I backed him, amazingly, so at 16 to 1. And he beat a horse called Challenger du Luc, who people will remember was an absolute, well, I was going to say something rude, but twice that would be the best way of describing him. And he got a peach of a ride that day and was delivered at the last fence and refused to go by. And Andrew Thornton and Seymour Business, they just had more guts, more reliability, and they went away to win the King George. And that was really the beginning of Seymour Business's grown-up career, if you like, being a good novice. But that was the beginning of his grown-up career, and he went on to win a Gold Cup and another King George, and the rest is history. But yeah, on a personal note, he was one of my favourite ones, even though it wasn't a sort of defining performance as far as the race is concerned. Whether or not I fancy Bristol de Mai, I'm really looking forward to him running, and I really hope he runs a huge race at Kempton, just to prove that he can put 2 really good efforts together. I don't think he is just a Haydock specialist. He's got lots of good form elsewhere. He's a Grade 1 winner at Chepstow, he's a Grade 1 winner at Sandown as a novice. But the point is, most of his best chase efforts have come at Haydock, and oftentimes first time out. And Nigel Twiston-Davies believes that's the key, that he's a horse who's quite hard to keep sound, he has his little issues, and therefore they can't string together a series of top quality efforts. Even though he holds his form okay, he doesn't hold that really brilliant level of form. So just for him and for the staying chase division and for his quite likeable connections, I'd really like to see him run a big race. It would make the King George that much more interesting. Whether or not I fancy him is another matter, really.